around 27 pounds.
Nice. Hold on 1 second. We're going to go right now. Hold on.
Hold on to something.
Got it.
Showtime. No, wait. I have done everything I've been asked to do. I didn't understand it, but I've done it. And I haven't once asked what's in it for me.
What are you saying, Ray?
I'm saying, what's in it for me?
Raymond, am I using you, Raymond?
This is the Total Sports Experience.
There's gonna be rumors about this. There's no way to stop it.
And now your host,
Ray, are you in here?
Ray Baker.
I miss going 5-hole on you.
You should never be allowed to talk to people.
Dude, that was a hell of an intro. I am honored and I am touched.
Well, thank you, Jeff Pope. Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to the 567 Entertainment Podcast Studios. I am your host, Ray Baker, for this live edition of the Total Sports Experience. I'm so excited to be with you guys on a Saturday. And listen, normally we would be neck deep into NCAA basketball. We're going to get into that on another show. But today, because there is no All-Star game or All-Star competition or anything like that, we're going to cover the NHL. And we're going to do it our way. A lot of people won't do it this way, but I will. On the phone with me today, on the Zoom hotline actually, is none other than the chef. Christopher Sheffield's with me. Good morning, buddy. What's going on?
Good morning. How are you?
You know what? It's been a good week. It's been busy. It's been productive. It's good, but we're back live, and it's could not ask for anything better. So before.
Well,
Go ahead.
I heard your intro, and I got to say, I know where we're going all hockey, but I want to throw out one small piece of life. This is a life lesson for everybody out there. It doesn't matter what sport you're in. It doesn't matter if you're a sport fan. This is a life lesson.
Okay.
If I could have about a minute.
Okay.
You ready for this?
I'm ready.
So we've all been there trying to get into a club, or we got pulled over by a cop, or, we all have that friend that has sticky fingers and shoplifts. And what usually comes out of the mouth? Oh, do you know who my dad is? Or do you know who I am? And whenever you hear or see a celebrity with that, you just kind of sit there and go, yeah, you're big, but who do you think you are? Right?
Right.
I mean, there is one exception, one, and it was never pointed out to me until last week, recently, that this is why that phrase runs in people's heads and they try to get away with it. When you are Patrick Ewing and you walk into MSG and your number is in the rafters and the security guard looks at you and goes, "Who are you? Dude, do you know who I am?" That's the one time. There is no other. I can't think of a politician. I can't think of a movie star. I can't think of a musician. I can't think of Kennedy. Harry, whatever you want to, wherever you want to go. The do you know who I am stops at Patrick.
Yeah, and listen, aside from, did somebody get fired over? I mean, seriously, I don't want anybody to lose their job, but you don't. Did you not know who he was? I'm just curious.
He's only 7'4", okay? So he's not like he's blending in.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So the best part was the next day. So people may not know this, and I don't want to go too far into this, but Walt Clyde Frazier, who is a Knicks legend from their 2 championship years in the early 70s, broadcast the games with, I think it's Mike Green.
Yes.
But every game at MSG, he pulls up in a limo, he gets out of the limo, and he walks in his fine Walt Frazier threads and walks on the red carpet. When Patrick walked in the day after this, Walt's red carpet was there, and Patrick chose not to walk on it because that's Walt's red carpet. That's not Patrick's red carpet. There's a level of respect there.
Absolutely.
And I love it.
I
love it. And watching him holding the trophy, the Big East trophy, which I loathe UConn, but and being from Connecticut, I really hate UConn. But that's my team. Georgetown is my team. I don't mind Syracuse. I think they're a great organization. I don't mind Chris Mullen when he was coaching the Red Storm. I don't have a problem with that. But, I mean, Patrick is it. He is the pinnacle when it comes to New York basketball. He either dominated at the Big East tournament, dominated St. John's, and was an NBA legend. He was on the Dream Team, for crying out loud.
Yeah,
This isn't some scrub, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, he was there with Magic and Larry and MJ and everybody else except the Isaiah team or whatever you want to call that. I mean, come on now.
Yeah.
That
was the second funniest thing that I saw over the week that happened when they were stopping Patrick Ewing at MSG. There is something else coming up that I told you before we got on the air that I'm going to play for you in just a few minutes. That is absolutely hilarious. I know I'm going to burst into laughter when I play it again. I've heard it about 14 times. Before we get going full blown with the show here, there is one thing that I wanted to mention and do. We've had a couple friends reach out to the show and reach out to our parent company, which is 567, and there's something going on tomorrow that I would love to kind of mention and put out there and stuff like that. And I didn't know that this was happening. And so some friends of mine that were listen to the show, they watch all of our live shows. One of the names is Christy, and I'm going to butcher this last name. And Christy, if you're listening, I apologize now. I'm going to butcher it. Lara Goidi, I think, is the last name. I think, but I've always in broadcasting school they said if you don't know how to say it with conviction, and no one will ever know unless that person's listening. So she is, and if I apologize. But Christy and her friend Evelyn are both from La Mirada, California. They both have sons that have Down syndrome, and I've met both of them. They're amazing. And tomorrow, March 21st, or 3/21, is World Down Syndrome Day. I did not know that. So here's what they'd like you to do. I'm just going to read this from the flyer that's on another one of my monitors here in the studio. It says, do you know your socks look like chromosomes? I did not know that, by the way, but they do. It's why we celebrate by wearing brightly colored mismatched socks. So don't hide their socks. Wear them proudly. You want to grab people's attention. When they ask you why you're wearing your rockin' socks, you can start a conversation about Down syndrome and help raise awareness. And that's what we're trying to do here on the show, is raise some awareness for that. So tomorrow, 3/21, it's a Sunday. Wear your mismatched socks. And then we're going to do some other stuff. We're going to put this on some of the other podcast shows that we have coming out as well. And then we're hopefully going to have Christy and Evelyn and their kids come out to the cornhole tournament that we are putting together right now. We're going to announce very soon. So I just wanted to throw it out there. They're listening. And I wanted to give them some big props because they're amazing parents that have amazing kids and they've got their plates full. So good job. Wear your socks tomorrow. It's awesome.
I will be wearing my bright Hartford Whaler socks tomorrow, and I will change them midday, and I will be wearing my bright Toronto Maple Leaf socks, and maybe in the evening I'll even change to my New York Yankee socks.
Oh, I like that. All right. I like that.
So I'll tell you a quick bright sock story.
Okay.
Before I had my hip replaced, I joined Magnolia Physical Therapy. I don't mind saying the name. And Jessica was my instructor, and she wore bright socks. And I couldn't figure out why she was wearing these. I just thought it was her personality, but she did it to help the people that couldn't see. Most of the people in the club or in the class were elderly, and I thought it was a nice thing. So I looked up bright socks. I'm like, I'm going to get a pair of those just to mock her and make fun of her. And that's when I too found out that 3/21 or whatever the date is special needs and awareness and stuff like that. And so I'm like, you know what? That's what I'm going to do is I'm going to wear those socks. And being a licensed funeral director back in the day, and always wearing dress pants and dress suits, and even around the offices that I worked for after I left that profession, I always wore those black socks and just looked bland. And now I don't care. I'm going to wear those socks, and I'm going to wear them for Jessica, and I'm going to wear them for special needs.
There you go.
That's why I have 3 pairs, and it's really funny. I won't wear a Jets sock yet.
I
just
understand.
can't.
I understand. You just can't bring yourself. It's okay.
No, I can't. Or the Knicks. So, I mean, there's lines here, folks.
I
There's gotta
understand.
be a line.
I understand.
You know?
So listen, the last part about that is if you have your socks on tomorrow, do me a favor. Take a picture of you and your socks, not just you, Chef, but everybody. Take a picture of you and your socks. Send them to us at the TSE show at gmail.com or along the bottom of your screen, fans at the TSEshow.com. We'll put them up on the website for tomorrow, and we'll run it for the whole week so everybody can see and raise some awareness for some of our unbelievable kids and families that deal with this every day. So there you go.
I can't wait. I will definitely be doing that.
All right, so we've got some questions rolling in already. Let's dive into the NHL here because it's NHL Saturday. Let's start with the East. And the only reason I'm starting with the Eastern Division is because of a sound clip that I have to play on this very radio show today. Eastern Division, I'm just going to run through it for those of you or maybe are not keeping up with it as well as you should. Capitals, Islanders, Penguins, Bruins, Flyers, Rangers, Devils, and, of course, our favorite, the Buffalo Sabres.
Oh, boy.
Metropolitan Division, basically with a few teams added here and there. The Capitals are leading right now 26-4. They've got 44 points. They've won 9 in a row. Alexander Ovechkin looks like the young version of Alexander Ovechkin, just knotted 2 more goals last night. Do the Caps win this division going away because the Islanders have lost their captain for the rest of the year with a torn MCL? Is it the Capitals' division to lose now at this point?
It really is, and their young goaltending has come through. I wish that more teams would look at their young goaltending and really see where things are actually pushing forward. And I look at Vancouver as well, but Washington's goaltending and Washington as a team, really, I selected them. I had them out of the playoffs. So to see them that far ahead is tremendous. I do see the Islanders sliding a little bit, but not too much. That's a system more than a player running that team.
Agreed.
But my other thing is I had Buffalo as a surprise team. Now, not as a playoff team, but when you look for an underdog, you got to pick an underdog. You can't sit there and go, "Oh, my Flyers are my underdog." No, that's not an underdog team. I'm talking about a team that comes from nowhere, and I have seen teams. I shouldn't say it like that, but boy, that team went down like a sack of hammers. I mean, you got to be kidding me.
So
that team has given up. It's Hall and nobody else.
You're leading me into the soundbite, so now I have to play it because this is what I've called in all my sports broadcasting and radio broadcasting. This is absolute gold. A few days ago, the Boston Bruins were in Buffalo to play the Buffalo Sabres. Now, if you know, and I do because of his time with ESPN and his time now, a long time play-by-play announcer for the Boston Bruins, Jack Edwards. As this game comes to TV and is getting ready to play, the arena is dark, and this is one of my favorite things where the arena is dark and the logos come up, and I get to present. Here's what's coming up next. And normally you would say, the Boston Bruins are writing this, and they're coming in to play the Buffalo Sabres. And you put some excitement to it. Well, my man Jack Edwards didn't exactly put excitement to it, but this is how it came out. Let's just play this again.
Where the Bruins take on the NHL's version of a dumpster fire, the Buffalo Sabres.
Wow.
Yeah. So.
Wow.
So. I think I've said this before on our show, but is he wrong? I mean, let's be honest, dude. 6-18-4 at the time, and they did lose to the Boston Bruins that night. Is he wrong? I mean, look, they just fired Kruger as head coach. This team, like you said, dropped like a wet sack of cement.
Stack of hammers.
Well, okay, you call it whatever you want at that point. I mean, is Jack wrong? I mean, look, should he have said it? Maybe not. But it's truly,
Well,
I've used that in the NFL over and over, Chef, but let's be honest.
Yep.
The Buffalo Sabres right now are a dumpster fire.
Yep. So I'll say two things. One is, growing up in Connecticut, I am not a Boston Bruins fan. I am not a Celtics fan. I am not a Red Sox fan. And I'm definitely not a Patriots fan. But when you talk about, and I don't want to get too winded on this, but when you talk about legendary Boston Red Sox sports announcers, Ned Martin, Johnny Most, Fred Cusick and Derek Sanderson, they're homers and they love their Bruins.
Very much.
There's no debating that. None. Jack Edwards, when he came onto the scene, I think he was there like 3 years and they won the Stanley Cup.
Right.
And, when you look at a defenseman like Chara, it's kind of like Lidstrom. He could win this. He should be the Norris Trophy winner every year he's ever played in the league. He's never really had a down year. Even at 42 or however old he is now, is he missing a step? Yeah, but he's still real good.
Right.
But anyway, it's that ego-driven Boston mentality, and it's well earned. But the thing is, with Jack Edwards just dumping on a franchise like that, usually you say what goes around comes around, and it never really does in Boston because the stands will be full. They're full of pride. They back the Jimmy Fund. They back the children's hospitals, everything in Boston. But to just come out and smash a team is one thing. He's a play-by-play guy. He doesn't really do a lot of commentary. And if you listen to his games, he's always, hammering the other team, no matter who it is. And it's like, Jack, we're already watching. Or we're watching our TV in our living room. It's Boston fans. They're already clued in, Jack. They love you. But to come out and call a team a dumpster fire, the thing is that it's true. And Wayne Gretzky, of all people, called the New Jersey Devils a Mickey Mouse organization. And nobody ever called him out and said, don't do that ever again. But at the same time, he was right.
Yeah.
And the egg is on Buffalo's face. It is not on Jack's. And he's not wrong. It's just like, you got to be kidding me, Jack. Really just bring it back a little bit, bro. Maybe try a decaf or a nap or something like that. But it's true.
It's true. And I will say, as a play-by-play announcer myself, would you do that in your intro? Probably not. I think I would rethink that. It's definitely not scripted. I'm going to tell you that right now. It's not on a shot sheet or a script sheet anywhere, for sure.
Yep.
But if you're saying it where we say it, look, I've called that New York Jets a dumpster fire last year because they were.
Oh, well, yeah.
I mean, you can say
that's
it maybe.
That's a whole different dumpster fire. That is a train wreck inside a dumpster fire.
Right.
With a volcano that's erupting and the lid is starting to close. That's what that is.
And listen, if it's kind of sports talk like this, what we're talking to our fans, we're talking to back and forth to each other. Dumpster fire is one thing. Maybe on a national broadcast. I think maybe Jack Edwards has sealed himself as never being the play-by-play announcer for the Buffalo Sabres. However, if the Sabres are looking for somebody, I'm willing to relocate. Okay.
Rick Jenneret.
Yes.
Is he still there?
Yes, he is. He does radio. He's amazing. I love that guy. Mayday. If you've never heard Rick Jenneret, go YouTube when Brad May scored an overtime goal in the playoffs for the Buffalo Sabres and listen to Rick Jenneret say Mayday over and over with passion like you've never heard before.
So I'm going to tell you a Mayday story. I got that really quick.
Okay.
I'm at Scott Niedermayer's retirement jersey number with the with the Yucks here in Anaheim.
Yep.
And I run into Brad May, and I'm wearing my Chiefs jersey from the movie Slapshot. And
Okay.
I put my arm around him, and I go, Brad, you know, you and I are friends on Facebook. He goes, oh yeah, and I go, yeah, I run Berger Pond Hockey. And he goes, I've heard of that. Contact me. We're gonna chat. And we got our picture. I got our picture. And as he's walking away, I'm screaming Mayday at the top of my lungs. I must have screamed it 10 times like Rick Jenneret. And yeah, Rick Jenneret he's a one of a kind. LaFontaine is one of his other ones, and Andrew Chuck, all of them actually. I mean, he made it fun. It's kind of like John Sterling with his home run calls. It's legendary in Buffalo.
And the Sabres will be back. I mean, that's.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
There's nowhere else to go but up. And I do want to slide this in because you did mention the team. The Rangers are floundering, and they were supposed to, you know, everybody that was a Ranger fan that, oh, I bleed blue and red for my Rangers. Well, you know what? Keep bleeding, because that team's not making the playoffs, and there's no cohesiveness, and that team needs a leader. That team needs Chara more than any other team in the NHL after having a blow up with a young defenseman, and he singled out Russian goaltenders, and he split it with the, you know, being the Canadian way, he said, and the American way. He divided. Nothing could divide that room even more, and there is no veteran to grab and rally that team, and it's not going to work. There needs to be some changes there. But I said long ago that you package the number one, you take the backup goaltender, and you offer your other number one pick, and you get Jack Eichel down from Buffalo. They should have done that from the beginning. They would have been a playoff team. Instead, they wasted money on Strom as their second liner.
Yep.
They should have slid Zibanejad back there. He's in his walk year, or he's close to it, or he may have re-signed. But there's that flux. Every team has to have a number one center. You got to have the number one stud. So you'd say, why does Buffalo need to trade him? Because Buffalo has worn out Jack Eichel's welcome, not the other way around. Buffalo has done a disservice to Jack Eichel to a certain degree. I mean, they haven't signed a goaltender. They gave him Jeff Skinner, who has fallen flat on his face, and they've given him Taylor Hall. But by the time Hall got there, the horse was out of the barn.
Yeah.
You still don't have a goalie, and you still can't name. If you can name two defensemen that play for Buffalo, that's two more than I could. So as you look at and Cousins is there, and this is a young stud. This is not a playmaker. This is a second and third line grinder who's never going to quit. It's too bad, because Dylan Cousins on the Rangers, even at a young age, could provide something, like the right way to play the game. But the Rangers they're done. They are done like dinner. So when you look at that division, I see Pittsburgh floundering, Philadelphia as well. The Bruins are a lock to stay, even with Mr. Edwards' comments about Buffalo and Washington. And you know, that's pretty much how the division shapes up. New Jersey is growing. That's where Buffalo should be, and they're not. And, you know, but New Jersey doesn't have all the pieces. So they're going to build smartly through the draft, and they're going to work their way up. They have a great veteran leader in Zajac, who's been there since, you know, 1912 or 82, right after the Musketeer comment. Right. But that's where you're at. Yeah. I mean, that's the division. I don't even think I missed a team there, but
no, I mean, look,
each team.
When we look, okay, so Capitals, Islanders, Penguins, and Bruins probably are the four there. The Flyers are on the bubble. They got absolutely routed by the Rangers 9-0. It was only because of one period. It was a 7-0 period in the second. So the Flyers, I think, are back and forth, which is a shame, because I love Carter Hart. I love the goaltender for Philadelphia. Former Philadelphia Flyer goaltender Dominic Roussel always watches goaltenders and chat with him, and he's in love with Carter Hart as well. So that team is on the bubble, but I think if the Flyers get loose, they might do some damage in round one of the playoffs. But we'll see how that kind of plays out here in the East.
Right.
Let's go over, because we had a couple questions that came through. Let's go over to the West real quick for your Western division. We're kind of jumping around. We're gonna save North for last. So just if you're up in Canada and you're waiting, that your Stanley Cup winner's coming from the North. So hold on, we'll get there. West Division, Golden Knights, Colorado Avalanche, which have really rebounded. They were down. The Minnesota Wild, St. Louis Blues, LA Kings, and then the bottom three, Coyotes, Sharks, and Ducks, who are not making the playoffs. One of the questions that came through, and this is an interesting one, because I think the Los Angeles Kings are a good enough team to make the playoffs, although they're kind of on that bubble. They're sitting in 5th in the West right now.
Right.
They've played well. They've played not well. It's really a roller coaster season for them. And one of the questions that came in from one of our listeners said, should the Los Angeles Kings look to trade Jonathan Quick? Here's the problem with that in my sense, and I'm going to ask you, Chef, is, first of all, I don't think there's going to be somebody that's going to want to take that contract in the rest of this year, shortened as it is, for a rental, if you will. Now, they're going to have to re-sign him. I think Quick's still under contract for another couple years.
Yes.
I don't know that they can dump that contract. They've got good goaltending behind Jonathan Quick, and they always have. But Johnny's always been their go-to guy. Now, if you're going to make a hard push now for the playoffs here and in the rest of this season, I think you got to hitch your wagon to Cal Peterson. But because of the way this season's lining up and where games are following, I don't think you can let Johnny go at this point, because he's almost the backup right now in Los Angeles.
Right.
Because Peterson is your guy going forward. I think that's the mentality of Rob Blake and the front office of the Los Angeles Kings. But I don't think you can trade Johnny at this point to somebody else that is. I mean, if you're trading him to a team that's in a position, they've already got goaltenders that are going to take him there.
I would do a few different things. If I were the Kings, I would put Cal. I'd entrench him as the number one and play it out. He is the future. If that's the future, rather, if he's the future and that's the future, let him get some meaningful games. Now, this season, more than any other season combined, you look at the games that you have left. I haven't looked at the Kings' schedule, but if they have 3 more against San Jose, Anaheim, and Arizona, rather,
right?
That's 9 games. You're looking at 15 to 18 points. That's where they've got to look. Now, how many more games do they have that are back to back? And then you also have to look at, what is your salary cap looking going forward? Can you retain some salary from Jonathan Quick? Get a chip that will be, can you take a gamble on a chip that's your future? And the trade that I'm going to say, so I'll hold it till the end. But the other thing is this: I believe Carter is done this year, and and Dustin Brown, I think, is done the year after. So you also have to look at the penalty that you had with the Mike Richards, Dean Lombardi fiasco.
Right.
And you have to look at, what is your cap shape look like in general. So my thing is this: I would look to acquire a asset and a pick for Quick, and I'd retain that salary. Now, I think Quick is this year and he's next year. I think he's only got these 2 years left, even if he has 3. If you're retaining 50% and the gamble is on the other team, I would do that. So we all know, you and I both know the trade that I'm thinking, and there is one team in the NHL that is on the goalie hunt. And it's funny because it's a former Yuck that was in Anaheim that is yucking it up in the land of the St. Pat's this week, and that's the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Yeah.
And he's a free agent Freddie's a free agent at the end of this year. I would take Freddie and I would push him to LA, and I would send the young defenseman that is taking far too long to groom, in my eyes, Timothy Liljegren, and I'd send a second-round pick. You're going to give the Kings a number 3, 4, or 5 defenseman in the future if he pans out, but you're also giving them the pick, but you're also asking the Kings to retain the salary this year and maybe a piece of it next year. Then I would take Anderson, and there's not a GM in the world that wants Frederik Anderson other than Don Waddell out of Carolina, and I'd offer him, and you might have to take back a James Reimer, you might have to take back a Peter Mrazek, but they're not comfortable with those two going forward. Give them Freddie, get a pick, get Mrazek, get Reimer, and then you can expose him in the expansion draft. And James Reimer at the end of your bench is not as bad as you would think. If he's your number one, it's going to be as bad as you think. Right. It might even be worse.
Right.
But at least you're going to get 30 to 40 games out of this guy. And he's an old pro. I hate to say it like that because he's young, but he's been around since 2010, 2011.
Right.
He's an ideal backup. He could be a great mentor. He's got a great head on his shoulders. And those trades that I just, that run through my head would help all three teams. It would give the Leafs a little bit of cap flexibility. It would give them a number one goaltender that's won a playoff round in his career. Other than, I know Frederik won 2 with the Ducks, but I mean, you're asking him to win a playoff round, and he hasn't won one in 7 years.
Well, and
I mean, come on, kid.
You're asking him to win a playoff round in a town. Look, if you're in Anaheim and you win a playoff round, great. You lose it, no one's burning the town down. We're talking about the Toronto Maple Leafs here, Chef.
Yep.
You can't ask this kid to step in and win a play. And if you don't win the playoff round for the Toronto Maple Leafs, and you have to wait another year to go through, the Toronto Maple Leafs fan base are rabid right now. They know it's close. Oh, yeah. So if you
to borrow a line from Jack Edwards, they're circling the dumpster fire, and they've got blow torches, and they are ready to go.
Ready to go.
Okay?
So if you do that, you're going to ask the Los Angeles Kings for 2 years, both the 21-22 season, the 22-23 season. Those are the last 2 years left on Jonathan Quick's contract at an average hit of $5.8 million.
Yep.
You know what? With the amount of talent and young talent, very young talent that are coming out of the system for the Los Angeles Kings, you might be able to afford that right now if it's somebody like Toronto. Now, Toronto may pick up part of that. You may only have to pick up maybe 50% of that. Right, so you're picking up. Let's say even you pick up $3 million, and so you have a cap hit for a guy that's gone, but it's only $3 million for a cap that's supposed to go up the next couple of years.
Correct.
So,
but it does give Toronto a little flexibility. But the key is the chip that you get back with Carolina, because Carolina's wanted Frederik Anderson, and if you take back $3 million and Carolina takes back $2 or $3 million from Reimer, and I'm not sure what Reimer's making, but it could really equal out to be quick. But you're sitting there with a backup goaltender. You've got Cal entrenched number one. He's not looking over his shoulder. He can make mistakes and still grow from them. Plus, you're probably going to get a couple of picks for that. You're going to get a second rounder coming from Carolina. You may get a late first rounder coming from Carolina, and you're getting Liljegren. So there's chips, and those chips will be entry-level contracts for the next few years. And when all of the money is off the books, the Carter money, the Richards money, the Dustin Brown money, when all of that money is gone and it's off the books, that's when the Kings will go from the bubble team that you mentioned, upper division. I mean, they'll be right there with the Golden Knights, and you're going to lose a player in the expansion draft. So having a player like Reimer to expose is critical.
Not bad at all.
You could lose him, and You could lose him and not pay for anything. You could even send a 5th-round pick to Seattle and say, you're taking Reimer, and we're going to give you this pick. Those deals are made. We know this. I mean, the team's in the division, so I can still get the chance to talk about them. But you look at the Ducks, okay? So they've got Lindholm and Manson and Fowler, and then who knows who's playing defense for them. The Drysdale kid is up. But can you imagine if Bob Murray did not sign Clayton Stoner, how different that team would look? They had no business signing Clayton Stoner. They were on the downward spiral. Perry was on the downward spiral. Getzlaff's been on it since 2009, and Timu was gone. The team was in a rebuild. All the old goaltending went out, and Hiller and the rest, and in came Gibson. So here you are, and you signed Clayton Stoner for an obscene amount of money. That was one of the worst. That signing, I'll tell you right now, and I'll say this till the end. That signing cost the Ducks Shea Theodore. That's what that signing was, because it was, hey, you're going to take Stoner's contract and you're going to take Shea Theodore, and then you're going to leave the rest of my Ducks alone. And that's what it came down to. And it was one of the most disgusting signings. How he still kept his job, I have no idea. But that was the worst. And if you could imagine Vatanen, Montour, Theodore, Fowler, Manson, Lindholm, that's 6 really solid D. I mean, that D alone would get you top 2 or 3 in that division. Maybe even first if you had a goaltender and some scoring, but they didn't. Who does that? Who trades such young defensemen? And it's horrible. It is absolutely horrible. And then you turn, and I still remember the Shea Weber. I'm trying to remember the goalie. I want to say it was Hiller, but it was Weber and Hiller for Rene and Weber for Lindholm and Hiller. That's what it was.
Yep.
Because Hiller and Lindholm would have saved them the Shea Weber money, and you can thank Bobby Clark and Ed Snyder for that. And it was Weber's contract is obscene. How Montreal got away with it, who knows?
Gross.
But that was the other one, and so they turned that down. And if they ever kept it, it might have made them more relevant than they were if it went down, and definitely the bottom out would not be as severe. Now, it would have slowed down Gibson's growth as an NHL goaltender with Rene around, but you look up the freeway, a few traffic jams, and that's what the Kings are doing with Cal. They've got to get that kid in. He's got to be a number one. This is the time for him to. You can see what you got. This kid may fall apart, and then you may have to go get another goaltender. Well, that's great. But at some point in time, I'd rather know ahead of time what I got.
Exactly.
The one benefit of Gibson, and you can also even look a little further up the freeway in Jones. I want to see what I got. And correct me if I'm wrong, but Jones, I think, took the Sharks to the Stanley Cup Finals.
He did.
Lost.
He lost,
Pittsburgh.
but yeah, he did.
Yep, but you see what you got. Let's see what I got. The Kings are playing with house money, and you look at teams that a little bit like it's comical. Colorado could use Quick. They could use him in a minute, and they would move mountains to try to get Jonathan Quick to fit him into that contract. But that's the team that's hungry, and they won't trade within their division. There's no way that would have to be a first rounder. You're looking at Jay Quick for a first from Colorado, and it just won't happen. But that is the sort of team that's hungry, and that's the team you prey on if you're the LA Kings. Everybody says that everybody's a hunter and a hunted. Let me tell you, the Kings are hunting for desperate teams, and they've got chips to use.
And I think if they make the right deal. I mean, look, this division is maybe one of the best as far as 1, 2, 3 go, with the Golden Knights, the Colorado Avalanche, and the Minnesota Wild all in this division. The Wild have been playing amazing. They've got some great young talent in Minnesota. The Avalanche are just absolutely stockpiled with good young talent in Colorado.
Yep.
The Golden Knights have led wire to wire so far, man. 21-6-1.
Yep.
They've got 43 points. That's the team to beat. But I'm going to tell you right now, it's going to be a dogfight. I don't think St. Louis has got that kind of run left in them with Jordan Binnington in the pipes. But the Kings, if the right deal is made, the Kings could make a push. It's going to be tough, but they've played Colorado very well.
Yep.
They lost to Golden Knights. They've got another one to them. But like you said, teams like the Kings, like the Blues, like the Wild, and this is, I think, the disadvantage of having this kind of division set up for this year. The Golden Knights are playing 4 teams that they've rolled over almost every time they've played them, in the LA Kings, the Coyotes, the Sharks, and the Ducks. The same thing, we're going to see the same thing in the North Division. So it's going to be interesting when we hit playoff time, and the Golden Knights are going to start playing teams from the North, where it's the Oilers, it's the Maple Leafs, it's the Jets. They may be playing the Lightning from the Central, which we'll get to, or the Panthers, who have been playing very well. This is going to be very, very interesting. So East and West done. I want to touch on one thing before we get to the North and the Central, and we are smack dab on time. I love it. One of the questions came in, and you and I mentioned this very briefly, Chef, is any thoughts on hockey coming back to ESPN? Now, look, the TV deals always change. The TV deals are very lucrative, financially speaking, for the NHL and for whatever broadcast station they go with. It is coming back to ESPN. I will tell you that there are a couple guys I would love to see back, and the captain of the mullet is one of them. I can't wait to see Melrose somewhere in a booth next to, because I'm you know, I've got a jersey. You can't see it, but I got jerseys behind me from my career. I got an LA Kings jersey back here. Barry Melrose was the king of the mullet in the 90s for the NHL. Poster child.
So I've got a few Barry Melrose stories, because Barry Melrose, when he was in LA, I think he ate every donut that he saw in LA. That guy was unbelievable, and it didn't matter day or night. That guy was sucking down a donut. So he goes to ESPN, and they pick him up after he's let go. And there was a couple of rumblings that he was going to coach the Rangers after
That's right.
Keenan had left.
That's right.
And I think maybe even after Campbell was let go. But the comical thing was, he married a girl when he was playing for Adirondack, and he lives in Glens Falls, New York, which is in the middle of nowhere. I mean, everybody says things are in the middle of nowhere. Yeah, that's a left-hand turn at the middle of nowhere, because there's not much in Glens Falls. Beautiful area, Lake Placid area, north of the capital of New York. And we won't get into that this show. That's a political show. But so Barry is from there, and he would commute to Bristol, which is a good 2.5 hours. Now, the comical thing is, he coached Adirondacks when he was in the Detroit system, before he was with the Kings. And when he went to ESPN, he had great people around him that loved hockey. Steve Levy was a New York City broadcaster that came up the 95 and ended up in Bristol with ESPN. And they became good friends. And they bought an IHL team or a Central Hockey League team in Adirondack and renamed them the Frostbite. And former Whaler Mark Potvin, rest in peace, Mark, was their coach. So, I mean, Barry has formed lifelong friendships with a lot of the people at ESPN. John Butchergross is another one.
Yep.
And I can't wait for it to all come back. And even though Brian Gumbel calls ESPN the self-proclaimed worldwide leader in sports, they are the worldwide leader in sports. Everybody wants to do it the ESPN way.
Yeah.
And there's competition around them, of course, but I mean, who doesn't want that? I mean, you can only get better. A lot of people have been let go with with ESPN. I know Bill Pito does. Oh gosh, he is with MSG, and he does the in between periods studio work for all the games: the Sabres, the Islanders, the Rangers. I believe the Knicks and the Nets as well. But it's kind of like they all have to mix around with the cable vision because the Yankees just went and just bought everything.
Right.
So they're good for them. They need it. And but it's amazing. There are so many former ESPN people that have. Jack Edwards is another one. Larry Beal. Even out in California, there's Craig Killorn, I think, is out here, and gosh, I can see the guy's face and I can't think of it, but he's all over. He's all over Fox, and Greg Myers. It's great, but hockey coming back to ESPN to battle with the NBA and the NFL, we'll see what happens. But I do want to see Mike Milbury back. I do want to see Jeremy Roenick in a role. And for when ESPN does marketing, they do it right. So they're not going to have the Sabres and the Whalers back in the day. They weren't on, but they're not going to have the Hurricanes, and they're not going to have the Florida Panthers, and they're not going to have these bubble teams, or they do the big bucks. It's, if you think about it, NBC is the same way. It's Boston, Pittsburgh, Philly, the Rangers, Washington, Tampa, maybe. Any other teams you see on NBC? Oh, wait, Chicago, but not this year, and Detroit, but you won't see them for about 4 or 5 years.
Right.
That's it.
Yeah.
You're not going to get a Kings Ducks game. That's why ESPN2 was so vital to them growing, and it took off. They need to get back to that. They need to have an ESPN hockey channel, so I can watch hockey all day long, almost like the NHL Network, and they can do it. Even if it's a radio broadcast that's simultaneous with the TV. I can't believe I got that word out like that, but even still, I did some brush up on that stuff. But that's where it is. I mean, the iconic music, and it was. People forget about this. I don't. Being from Connecticut, is Tom Mees was the backbone of hockey at ESPN,
and he loved it. Tom Mees loved the NHL.
Loved hockey. I think it was from Delaware or Maryland, down that way.
Yep.
And just a tragic loss and a tragic death. He saved his kids' lives. Is what he did. They fell into a pool and he drowned while he saved his kids, but neighbor's pool. And but just a tremendous voice. And I haven't forgotten about him. He just seemed like a nice, decent human being. And I met him once, literally at a Dunkin' Donuts. And usually, you kind of don't gawk at people or anything. And I said hello, and I'm like, hey, are you doing any games tonight? And he's like, no, but we've got this and we've got that coming on. And the next week, I'll be excited to watch that. He really was. He really was excited to see that.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
For the life of me, I could never figure out why ESPN, and you got to figure 1997, if they weren't on a stack of money, they were on 2 stacks of money, why they didn't buy the Whalers and turn the Civic Center, which was 55 shops. The Civic Center where the Whalers played was, it was a shopping mall with a hockey rink.
That's right.
So why they didn't buy it and open up the ESPN Sports Hall of Fame, and they had more, they would have had more room than they could ever imagine, and they could have kept the satellite dishes 20 miles away in Bristol. Why they didn't do that and own an NHL franchise, but keep it separate, because ABC and Disney, that was all one thing, and they didn't have a problem with selling and keeping a team with a network.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. So
listen, I think it's good for both sides. It's good for ESPN because that's back.
Oh yeah.
It's great for the NHL because that's the revenue they're looking for, and for the salary cap to go up. So look, good and good. My overall thought is I loved ESPN covered me when we were still playing. You ready for this? I can't believe I'm going to say this on the air. One season over the summer, a bunch of us that played here locally also played what's called pro beach hockey. It was god awful.
Yep.
I'm not ashamed that I was a part of it, but go watch it because it's really you can find it on YouTube somewhere. It's
Oh yeah.
it's hockey on the beach and it's terrible, but we had a blast. And that was ESPN.
I had two friends of mine come back to me, Jason Grezik, and the ESPN calls him the Grezik one instead of the Great One, and Mike Power. I think he was on the Dog Pack.
Yep.
And so Mike Power, I'll tell you, he got a Stanley Cup ring with the Lightning. He did their changeover work and stuff like that. But Mike approached me. It was after my wife passed, and I had friends of mine that were teachers, and his daughter had trouble reading, and I introduced him to a friend of mine, and the next thing you know, the girl's learning how to read, and they're tutoring this girl over the phone. And this is before cell phones and everything else. I just thought it was the greatest thing, and it was things like that. And Mike gives back to the community tenfold. He coached multiple youth and high school teams in the Tampa area, and I think he's with Columbus now. But those type of people played in that, such as yourself, and it's like everybody forgets they're human beings. And ESPN, more than anything else in the community, especially after meeting Tom, they're human beings, and whether you like them or hate them. If Stephen A. Smith walked down the hall, I wouldn't call him a name, but I'd sure make fun of him, and he'd probably give it right back to me, which would be even better.
He would.
Oh, why
awesome.
not?
Exactly. Why not?
I just wanted it. Everybody, when Tyson came back to fight Roy Jones, I was kind of hoping Skip Bayless and Stephen A. were the undercard. That would have been.
I would have paid pay-per-view.
That would have been great.
That would have been amazing.
Yep.
Okay, we got about 20 minutes left. We got 2 divisions to go. However,
sure.
I do know, as I'm looking at all of our listener numbers and questions that are coming in, I saw just something come through, and I think I want to mention this again because we mentioned at the top of the show, but they're listening, and hopefully her son is listening. So, Christy, if you're listening, I'm not going to try your last name again because I think I butchered it in the first part of the show. I don't want to do it again, but I know she's on listening. So, tomorrow is World Down Syndrome Day, 3/21. Go look up why it's the 21st of March. It has because it's the chromosome number and all that. And we have to wear our socks. So Chef has already said he's wearing his socks. You're going to wear, let's go, Hartford Whalers, I think, in the first part of the day. We've got the Yankees to wrap up the day. What was the middle? Not Red Wings. What were you going to wear?
Toronto.
Oh, that's right.
Toronto.
Maple Leafs. Maple Leafs. Okay. And I've got mine too. In fact, what I'm going to do is for the first part of the day, I have some housework to do. I have my old stockings that I wore as a player. So I'm going to throw on, not shin guards, but I'll throw on some of my old hockey socks that I have. And she's listening. She just said, thank you. Christy, you're amazing. I got to tell you that. So tomorrow, your socks look like chromosomes. Don't know if you knew that. I did not, but now I do. It's why we celebrate while wearing brightly colored, mismatched socks. Don't hide the socks. Proudly wear them. And when somebody grabs your attention and says, hey, why are you wearing those goofy socks? Now you can tell them, and you can share the awareness of World Down Syndrome Day, which is tomorrow. So Chef's in, I'm in. And then the other thing that we did is that, Evie is watching too. Evie is another one of the parents that these guys are so amazing. The stuff that they do for their family and for their kids, and the amount of sleep that they do not get each day, you guys are amazing. So thank you for what you do. They're thanking me, but I didn't do anything. I'm just on the radio or whatever. But so send in your pictures. If you're going to wear your socks, Chef is going to do it. I'm going to do it. Send in your pictures on the bottom. It's fans@thetSeshow.com. Or you can send them to our regular Gmail account, which is the tseshow@gmail.com. You can use either one of those. You can post them, and you can tag us at TSE_show if you're on Instagram or Twitch or Twitter or Facebook or whatever. You can tag us. We are going to take pictures as well, and we'll put them up all on the website starting tomorrow all through next week so everybody can see the Sox and where they're at and bring some awareness to it. Okay, Chef, let's look at the last two real quick because
Okay.
so we look at the Central. Look, to me, there's two teams, and the rest of it is
Dog meat.
yeah. I mean, look, it's you've got the Lightning, who we thought would be there, right? 21-6-2. They're tearing through this division. The Panthers are up there, which is a little shocking. I think both of us, you and me together, I think put them as one of the sleeper teams. They're up there. 19-6-4. They're 2 points out of first place. Their goal differential is +17. They're playing very well. Here's one of the things that stuck out to me in this division. Because, look, it's Lightning and Panthers, and the rest is a circus. The Dallas Stars, 9, 10, and 7 as of right now. They've only played 26 games because they did have a COVID interruption very early in the season. And while everybody played like 12 or 14 games, the Stars played like 3, okay? So they're still trying to catch up. Here's what sticks out to me, though. The goal differential. For the Blue Jackets, by the way, sorry, this Central Division's got the Lightning, Panthers, Hurricanes, Blackhawks, Blue Jackets, Preds, Stars, and, of course, the Red Wings. When you look at the goal differential, the Blackhawks are -8. The Blue Jackets are -18. The Preds are -25. The Red Wings are -30. For the teams at the bottom of the divisions or the bottom of the conference, you normally see that. However, the Stars, only winning 9 games, they have 7 overtime losses, tied with the Blue Jackets for most in this division. They're a +3 goal differential. Now, you know me. I'm stats.
Yep.
I look at these, and I try to pick out why things are happening. And I'm telling you right now, if you've only won 9 games, you've got 7 overtime losses, you're a +3, which means you're scoring goals. You talked about somebody who needs goaltending or maybe some extra defensemen. The Dallas Stars need some help on the back end. You're scoring goals. You're in there. You've got 7 overtime losses. If you take 6 of those and put them in wins, the Stars are in the top, near the top of this division.
Yep. It's brutal. It is that they also have at least 4 games, if not 5 games in hand on most of the divisions or a division, or at least the bubble teams. So they're in a tough spot. So there was a rift in the locker room with Khudobin, and he was benched, sent to the press box.
Right.
So it's no secret that he'll be the one exposed in the expansion draft.
Right.
So Bishop hasn't played in a year and a half, and to ask him to come back and be your savior to push you into the playoffs might be a little much. I'm not sure what his contract is, but if Dallas could offer both Khudobin and Bishop to the Kraken, and please take both, they would do that as well.
Well,
which could happen.
Why do you hang your hopes on Ben Bishop, who hasn't played in 17, 18 months, when Anton Khudobin was the guy that took you to the Stanley Cup final the year before? And I'm going to say right now, you and I talked very regularly throughout the Stanley Cup final last year. He was one of the guys that's the reason the Stars were even in the series against the Lightning.
Yeah. I remember back when we did that podcast, I did say that the slipper was about to break and it was over with. It was a few different times, and Khudobin did play out of his mind. He had a hot run, and he definitely put a wedge between himself and his teammates in Dallas, and especially the coaching staff, who they love Bowness. So he's not going anywhere. Rick Bowness is a pretty good guy, and anyway, but Dallas is a team that just needs like a snow globe shake. It just needs a change. They're going to stand pat at the deadline, and they're going to go with what they have. They might trade. Here's another last name I can't pronounce, but Jamie Orzelik or whatever his last name is. If anybody goes, it would be him. He's a little bit too slow for their system, but at the same time, it's just not working well with for the Stars right now. Their goals are there. The defense has let them down a little bit, and their goaltending has been a colossal upside down.
Yeah.
Would a trade help? No. I think what's going to happen is the young goalie is either going to have to grow into the position, or they are going to have to go hunting for a goaltender in the offseason. They may even keep Khudobin. Who knows? It's going to be tough. I think that
it'll be interesting to see after the expansion draft, because if they leave both those guys unprotected, which one of those guys gets nabbed up, or if either one of them gets taken by Seattle. So it'll have to wait till after that before I think the Stars can say thumbs up, thumbs down on one of those guys.
Right. And I'm trying to think, when the realignment of the division shakeout, Dallas goes back to, do they go back west, or is it Arizona is the team that moves? I'm trying to remember, but there's a huge trade summer chip that is still out there, and it's Vegas. Vegas has Fury. They have a young goaltender coming up as well, the Czechoslovakian kid.
Yep.
And then they also have Robin Leonard. And the beauty of Vegas, before everybody jumps ugly and says, oh, they're going to lose one of those goalies, they're going to have to expose one in the draft, they're exempt from the draft with Seattle.
Yeah.
They can do whatever they want.
Yep.
So the Stoner contract, I guess if Seattle wants it that bad, they could have it. But you could trade Leonard out of your division to a conference rival in Dallas, and there will be a premium. I mean, you could package a couple of bad contracts with Leonard, and you're relieved from all financial responsibility, and you're almost back to square one, even though you've got some large contracts. But, your defense is set. Vegas is actually waiting for their younger players to continue to develop. They've got the young center that's struggling to get some playoff time. White Cloud, the defenseman, has made a lot of leaps and bounds. But getting back to Dallas, that's what they have to do. It is very difficult for a team to stand pat and watch their team go down the drain. But with those games in hand, as long as they keep pounding on the division, I mean, you're looking at Detroit and the rest of the weaker links. They've got a shot. Nashville's in there as well. And that's which you want to talk about a team that's also on the spiral. That's another one. But that's where you're at, is that it's kind of like what I mentioned earlier about the Kings, but they're not an up and coming team. But if you stand pat, the other teams will make the decisions for you, and you're not going to lose anything. There's nobody in the stands. You're not looking at a gate. You're not looking at certain things.
Yeah.
So that's where you're at in Dallas. And it's unfortunate, but that's the price you pay for going so far in the playoffs last year. There's always the letdown. This is their letdown. I mean, New Jersey won the Cup one year and was out of the playoff the next. So
and that's what'll happen this year for sure for the Stars.
It'll happen.
So Lightning, Panthers. I didn't mention the Hurricanes, but they're the three right now. The Blackhawks sit at 4, but Blackhawks, Blue Jackets are really kind of a dogfight right there for that fourth spot in the Central Division. But I think it's going to be Lightning, Panthers going forward. All right, we have a few minutes left, and this is my favorite because I picked them at the very beginning of the year. I've never picked this team ever to win a Stanley Cup in all of my years covering the NHL or covering hockey. But in the North Division, and I thought this was a little goofy when they put this together. They put this together of Northern Division is just a Canadian team. So you've got Maple Leafs, Oilers, Jets, Canadians, Canucks, and Flames. Oh, and I'm sorry, and the Ottawa Senators. Sorry about that.
Yep.
It's really a two-team race. I mean, the Jets are up there, but once you hit 4, 5, 6, and 7, it's a fall off. It's gonna be Maple Leafs Oilers going forward. I picked them to win, and I think the Maple Leafs, especially if they can do one thing at the trade deadline, they're not gonna be sellers. They're gonna be picky. They need a Stanley Cup goaltender. We mentioned it earlier in the show when we talked about the West Division and the Los Angeles Kings. The Maple Leafs, to me, are one small piece away from a Stanley Cup championship, and it's a Stanley Cup run goaltender. Now, I'm not saying that Frederik Andersen's not, but I kind of am.
I will. I will.
I kind of am.
I'll tell you right now, he's not.
Listen, he's a good goaltender, but when we talk about, and Chef, you and I have mentioned this before, we talk about a Stanley Cup type of goaltender, and here's what I mean by that. When the Los Angeles Kings ran in 2012, every series that they started out with, they started the series 3-0. Now, the rest of the Los Angeles Kings sat back at that time. They didn't sweep every series in 2012. Normally, I think all of them were 3-1 or 4-1. The reason that is because they got comfortable. Once you're up 3-0 against a team like the Los Angeles Kings, there was the thought that, look, nobody in the NHL is going to beat Jonathan Quick 4 straight games to win the series 4-3. It just was not going to happen. That is a Stanley Cup goaltender. That is where you put all your stock into one guy and say, you go win it for us. It reminds me a lot of the late or mid-90 Edmonton Oilers teams when they had Bill Ranford. They went up 2 games, 3 games to none. There's no way you were beating Bill Ranford 4 straight times. Was not going to happen. This is where the Maple Leafs are. The Maple Leafs, I think, are one Stanley Cup run goaltender away from winning it and winning it this year. Do they need anything else? Look, they've got all these. Look, Mitch Marner and Austin Matthews. These 2 kids, we knew they were going to be. These 2 kids are studs. They can do. I mean, I've seen these guys bury pucks all year that I didn't think could.
Here's where I see the Leafs. The problem with, there's 2 things that they've done, and it's right on this date, is they play 4 games in 14 days. So you're like, big deal. But the problem is they're playing them against, I think they play Ottawa tonight. I'm not sure. Maybe it's Columbus or Calgary rather. But the issue is this. Here's the issue. It's a 14-day quarantine in Canada.
Right.
So the quick trade should have been done. It literally should have been done last Sunday when they started Hutchinson in net. And they should have just bit the bullet and had Hutchinson stay in the net and take the loss like they did. But that trade should have been done last Saturday night, and we would be a week away from Jonathan Quick, and we would not have played any games Monday through Friday or Monday through Thursday, and you'd be stuck with Hutchinson and Campbell over the weekend here, and you might have gotten Quick back maybe a day early. But now that's gone. That's out the window. This was their opportunity to move to trade with a Canadian team. And of course, with the Leafs up against the cap, they've got to have money going out. So you're taking on Anderson, and we went over it earlier in the show. But there's another goaltender that's similar to the situation where Cal is in L.A., is Holtby and Thatcher Demko. Demko has taken the reins. He's the number one. They brought in Holtby as insurance. It's a good insurance policy. You got a Stanley Cup winning goaltender at the end of your bench. And he's another one that has had friction with his teammates, JT Miller in particular.
Yeah.
And now you have, you take a run at him. He's only $4 million a year. You trade Anderson away. You trade him anywhere. Now it opens up a little bit. Vancouver's not going to want a goaltender coming back. They're not going to want Jack Campbell. They're not going to want anything else. They don't need it. Would they take it? Yeah. Who wouldn't pay somebody $2 million to sit at the end of the bench? They don't have to eat any of Holtby's salary this year or next. And you pin your hopes on Braden Holtby, which is not that bad of a deal. He's really only lost to Pittsburgh, who's won Stanley Cups, or he's won the Stanley Cup himself the last few years.
Yeah.
So you're really not looking at, this isn't a washed up has-been goalie. Has he got a lot of miles on him? Sure he does. He's played 65, 70 games before. But this is exactly what you need. You got a goalie in there that knows how to do it And if you can't do it physically, then you don't trade for him.
And
But
look,
that's where I'm at.
Here's the. I'm going to tell you right now.
And
If that deal goes off, the Toronto Maple Leafs, if the deal for Jonathan Quick happens, the Toronto Maple Leafs win the Stanley Cup. Here's why. You'll have Jack Campbell, because Frederik Andersen will go the other way. You'll have Jack Campbell and Jonathan Quick back together again. Jack Campbell, by the way, as the LA King fans know him as Soup. Soup was the backup to Quickie before he went to Toronto. But Toronto's added. They added Jake Muzzin a few years ago, who was a former LA King defenseman with him. They also added some role players. Joe Thornton came over, like him or not. Jason Spezza, the veteran, is over. They brought over Wayne Simmons recently to help bolster that and role play. I'm telling you, this team, if they get one of those goals, Brayton Holtby wouldn't be a bad choice. I think Quickie is the better fit for this roster as we sit right now.
He probably is the better fit, but it's that 14-day quarantine that's going to be a huge issue for Canadian teams going forward.
Yeah.
It's very, very unfortunate, but that's the laws there. And it's not as if the teams didn't know this. If you've been watching the waiver wire, which has been an absolute gong show when it comes to Anton Forsland, is that who that is? There's one goalie he has been property of 4 teams, hasn't played a minute.
Right.
And now he's the number 2 in Ottawa. But that's the problem, is when they started that roulette, it's been difficult. What they should have done is the team should have been able to protect the goaltenders, not to move them around, because, I don't know, it's a pandemic and you don't want to spread people around everywhere. Instead, you fly a private jet from Ottawa to Winnipeg, of all places, to pick up your 5th-string goaltender to fly him back to sit on the end of your bench. And by the way, he'll start Tuesday because they won't have to quarantine.
Right.
It's a joke. The NHL missed it on that one.
Yeah.
You want to talk about swings and misses? They missed it. And the spread of COVID, we're very thankful that it didn't happen as prevalent as it did in Canada. That being said, Winnipeg has 3 games in hand on Edmonton and Toronto. And could Winnipeg win the North? Anybody could win the North. Anybody that's in Edmonton or Toronto, I do see Winnipeg. They could sneak up in there.
They could.
Even if they finish second, they're playing for home ice advantage. I definitely see those 3 teams. I don't see Montreal catching anybody as the 4th. And then you've got Calgary, which has Daryl Sutter, who took all of 35 minutes to run his team into the ground. They're actually playing better than they have been under Jeff Ward. But Sutter is the wild card, believe it or not.
Here's what's funny about the North like that. The Maple Leafs and the Oilers lead right now with 40 points. The Calgary Flames are in 6th. They have 33 points. Now, in a normal season, 7 points is monumental because you're playing everybody else. So to make up points is very hard in the regular season because you have to rely on everybody else. In this season, if you're the Flames and you have 7 points, you're playing all the teams that would normally be taking points from you. So these are 4-point swing games. The Flames have a very good chance, as do the Canucks and the Habs, because they're 34-35. They've got a good chance to jump up here. If they can catch fire, and like you said, I'm going to tell you, I got nervous when Sutter became the head coach of the Calgary Flames because I saw what he did when he took over mid-season in Boston. I remember the day it happened for the Los Angeles Kings, and they ended up winning the Stanley Cup that year.
Yep.
That's the question mark for me.
You know what the funniest thing is? The 2 variables in the North Division is the number 1 goaltender for the Leafs and Daryl Sutter for the Flames.
Yeah.
Those are the 2 variables.
Yeah.
And it's money going out for Toronto, but it's not any money. It's Frederik Andersen's money going out. There's no secret. There's not going to be a Morgan Riley for Jonathan Quick. Not going to happen.
Not going to happen.
It's Anderson money out for goaltending money in.
Especially if you get part of that paid for by the Los Angeles. Like, let's say you can get the Jonathan Quick deal, and you tell the Los Angeles Kings pick up $3 million of that salary. So now you're only pulling over $2.8 million of a cap hit.
Yeah.
That's money to you. That's a deal.
Well, there's those that are in play there, and the Kings can name their price. And the funny thing is that there's other teams out there that want Anderson, and for them, they could push him off. I'm telling you, James Reimer at the end of the Kings bench. That's those two. I could see them 3 or 4 years going solid, right down the road and right back into the playoffs. But there's one other variable too that I didn't mention, and people won't think it's that big, but when Montreal made their coaching change mid-season, they fired their goaltending guru or advisor or director of organizational goaltending, and they named Sean Burke as an intern.
That's right.
So Sean Burke, former King, former Whaler, 19 seasons in the NHL. Sean Burke took Carey Price, took him aside, and they had a few days off. And once he cleared quarantine, Sean Burke, he started working with him, and Price's goals against average has dropped tremendously.
Yeah.
So Sean Burke saw flaws in his game, and the sad thing is this, and this is what really is the sad part about hockey is, Sean Burke should be a general manager in the NHL somewhere. He really should. And you're going to take a look at him and say, oh, we got to label him as a goalie coach, and he's so much more talented than that. But it's too bad that the general manager couldn't also be the goalie coach, because that guy gets it. He's had Benoit Allaire. He's had a few other tremendous goaltending coaches in his heyday. But the funniest story, and I'll leave you with this one because I know we're up against it, is they did not have a goalie coach until Steve Weeks arrived. He arrived, and he had to retire. Then he became the goalie coach for the Whalers. But the goalie coach was Jerry Cheevers, and he wasn't labeled as the goalie coach. But Jerry Cheevers, when they'd get on the bus, when they'd get and travel anywhere, he would sit with the goaltenders, and he would talk to them, do this, and I found this to be easy. And you're talking about a Hall of Fame Stanley Cup winning goaltender with Bobby Orr on your team, and the Big Ben and all this other stuff. And that's who you leaned on, was Jerry Cheevers. And I wonder how many goaltenders there are in the NHL that don't lean on Francois Allaire or the late Jacques Caron, or a few of Mitch Korn is another one. How many of them just listen to a goalie coach that's watching a video? And Sean Burke is now watching a video. Sean Burke is watching the goalie. And it's a tremendous thing. I can't remember who the goalie coach is now in Anaheim, but it was Francois Allaire that worked with, I almost said Guy Hebert, and I know that's not true, Giguère. And that was money for them. That was the biggest thing that they could, that's an organizational asset that you would just think haphazardly when you go to fire a coaching staff or bring in whoever. It's huge nowadays. And I think teams get away from that, and they need to bring that back in, because it's an elite position. I think Steve Weeks is now with Florida. He was teammates with Joel Quenneville with the Whalers, but I think Steve Weeks was also in Chicago for a little bit. But he's another one, and he's an up and coming. He's 45 years old, so he's not too up and coming, but it's a goalie coach that makes the deal. And I wonder who the LA Kings goalie coach is, because if they bring in a left-handed goalie coach, because I think Cal is a lefty, it's going to make all the difference in the world.
Well, they've got Bill Ranford right now, and Ranford has done.
He's a gem. No doubt about it. I didn't know who it was, but
they've got Bill Ranford. I think Jamie Storr is on that team, former number 1 overall pick for the Los Angeles Kings as well.
Sure.
So good stuff there. So listen, we're up against it. We're gonna leave you guys now. That's our NHL. We're gonna wrap up the season once we get ready for the playoffs, and we're gonna do this again to lay out all of the playoff matchups for you. I still got the Leafs winning the cup. Just me. And my buddy Jack Edwards says that the Buffalo Sabres are a dumpster fire. So we'll leave you with that, ladies and gentlemen. I mean,
Yep.
what I couldn't have said it better than Jack Edwards anyway. So
Yeah.
So
And my parting shot to everybody is, look up who Patrick Ewing is and let him into the building.
let him into the building, no matter what building he goes into. That's going to do it. We will catch you guys next time. 2 more episodes and this live episode dropping for the podcast coming this weekend. We talked to Christian Straka, former ATP pro tennis player. It's a mindset coach now. It's an amazing episode there. And then the Jiu-Jitsu Dummies guys joined us. That'll be dropping tomorrow as well. Until we can talk again, you guys have a great day. Be good humans. And remember, tomorrow, Crazy Socks. Take a picture, send it to us. We'll get it up on the website starting tomorrow. Until then, you guys have a great week, and we'll see you next time.